Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Gabe.
It's Caleb.
And welcome to episode 38 of the Positive Outlook podcast. Today, what do you have Tony on? Tony, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey, guys, it's Tony Rubleski, president of Mind Capture Group. Delighted to be here.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, why you do it.
Well, I appreciate the getting to the point here, because sometimes people read my introduction. I'm like, all right, they don't care. It's like, what's in it for me? First off, I want to thank everybody that's watching to right now in real time or checking the podcast out in what I call time shifting later in the future. As we record this, I'm a hope dealer, you guys. I'm the guy that says, let's sell hope in a pandemic. Mm-hmm. Why not? No task of that. It's not been easy, but I love what I do, passionate. I always start out right out of the gate by saying, this is book number 7 in the Mind Capture series. And I say a little tongue in cheek that we're all very aware as we record this in 2022 now that the last 2 years have been a shit show. So I hope you don't get in trouble with YouTube for that, but I'm calling it the way it is.
Yeah.
However, I approach it and say, do you want to focus on things you can control, things that you can direct your mindset towards, or do you want to react, float, or drift and let the global media, others tell you constantly how you should live your life and how you should think? So I'm going to encourage anyone that's listening, if you're not driving or at the treadmill at the gym, to grab a pen and paper, because anytime I do an interview, and I'm grateful to be here, I want people to leave with 1 or 2 solid ideas that you can implement right now. Mm-hmm. Not just another podcast that they listen to in the background. So I'm going to warn you, if you're working while this, there might be some things I'm going to say to positively disrupt you, that if you're giving me the gifts of your time and attention, I don't want to waste it. 30 minutes, if we go 30 minutes, guys, is a valuable amount of time. Mm-hmm. And anywhere I teach or train in the world, I want people to say, even if I don't really like this guy a little bit sometimes, he provoked me to think, to question, look at my life differently, that there's no timeouts, guys. Mm-hmm. The clock is moving. There is no reset button. There's no looking backward. We can't go back and rewind. There's no time machine. All we have is right now, present moment. So whenever you're listening to this podcast, the goal is we don't waste your time. That's the 3 of us. Mm-hmm. And wherever you might be listening in the world, as you guys grow your podcast, congratulations, you're getting something from every interview. And that's sort of the goal today.
I got to say, I'm very excited before we get in too deep.
All right. What other questions you guys got? Like I said, this is a fun intro, or there wasn't some, 2-minute, bio that was on the internet. So.
Right. Yeah, we definitely... We like when the guest introduces themselves, because they get to, put their own spin into it and put their own tone, so it's fun. And I love to get to know the people we're interviewing well, because it's fun to build these relationships. And obviously you're a great guy to have on, so that'll be awesome. But as far as questions go, we do have a couple that we always ask at the end, but I'm going to let you kind of take the reins here and, tell the viewers what they need to hear.
Well, I think if anything is, people say I'm a motivational speaker. That's okay. I really deep down know the last few years, I can't motivate anyone to do anything differently. If you try to change people, good luck. We can barely change ourselves, you guys. Mm-hmm. Not being negative here. I like to look at it as I like to inspire or positively disrupt people through a series of questions, stories, different points that get them to look inward to go upward. And I think what's been wonderful, some of the takeaways from the last 2 years globally, is that it forced the world to go into a timeout. We all got put in our rooms, our offices. Some of us were labeled essential. Some of us were non-essential. I'm over a lot of the shock value of the last 2 years. And I think as we roll into 2022, a lot of people are getting like, okay, it's time to get going. So I like to say that, as a teacher, anytime I do an interview such as this, or I'm teaching live or doing Zoom or teaching online with people, that you know what to do. And I think there's no shortage of information. Brian Tracy, who I interviewed a few years ago for my 6th book, The Legend, said that information by the year 2020 will double every 3 days. Wow. It's happening. So the challenge is, there's 2 things I open up in any training or teaching throughout the world is, we have a problem of attention, guys. The average North American has about a 9-second attention span. It's a fact. Twitter, Facebook, swipe right, swipe left. We don't pay attention unless it's really in our wheelhouse of interest to us, or it's going to benefit us. That's just the reality. Second is, we're an information overload world. You guys are in your 20s. My daughters are 22 and 24. I have 3 children. It's a different era. People like to pick on you guys, but I just say they're jealous. Every generation has a strength and things they leave to every future generation. So you guys are digital natives. You've been raised on telephones and mobile and Google and Wi-Fi and gaming.
Right.
My generation, Gen X, I'm 50 this year, is kind of like stuck in the middle, watching everybody fight. And I just say, look, what will be very discerning is to be able to go through content information and pick and choose what's relevant for your situation, and then determine if this expert you're studying with, he or she or multiple experts, look for patterns, you guys. So the first note I'd give the audience is look for patterns of success. The other Tony R, as we joked about, Tony Robbins taught me years ago that success leaves clues. What I love to do when I teach and write and speak all over the world is share the clues. What are the clues or patterns of success that people in any chosen profession do successfully that others don't? Yes, it maybe sounds a little condescending, but here's the deal. We are a society that many people float and they drift. They wait around. They don't question the status quo. They don't write their goals down and say, like, this is what I'm really drawn to. Many people don't find their passion for maybe 5, 10, 15, 20 years. So with all this great content or information of value, I say, why not shortcut the process? Still have to work, guys.
Mm-hmm.
Here's something I say to a lot of groups and clients is, in a YouTube world, everybody wants a 60-second answer to a 10-year problem. Mm-hmm. Let me repeat that. Everyone wants a 60-second answer or a YouTube video to a 10-year problem. It does not exist. I have a big client right now that has 400 employees, and the big challenge is their workforce is younger. They're expecting things to be solved right now. It doesn't work that way. There's a thing called experience, paying your dues, putting your time in. You guys know this. Mm-hmm. I would imagine your first podcast to this one we're doing right now, recording, has gotten infinitely better because you put the time in.
Absolutely.
You've put research in. So people think, well, you guys are podcasters, it's easy. Well, I'm sure your first couple podcasts, you guys were terrified.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Now you get to episode whatever we're on, and you have experience, you have wisdom, you have time. You put in the commitment to do it. So I know I've thrown a lot at your listeners right away, but I'll say this, and it's very controversial. It's easy to be negative, to be snarky, to be a troll online, to hide behind the keyboard and do nothing all day except complain and moan. I call it the coffee shop club. Before this interview today, I write in the morning at the coffee shop, and I hear all the old people primarily whining and being grumpy about life. And I go, man, I hope I don't grow up to be that negative.
Yep.
And you see a lot of that in different generations, regardless of age group, that just give up, guys. Mm-hmm. They're like, well, by 30, it's just the same old. It's not going to change. I say, why not? So question to write down or to think about as you drive or you listen or you multitask with this podcast is, why not try something new? Why not approach life and say, you know what? I can do different things this new year. I can try to learn a new skill. I can write that book. Gabe, you talked about writing a book. Why not?
Yeah.
And I think that we lose our curiosity. I call it childlike curiosity as we get older. And far too many adults, this ticks me off. It's what drives me to go out and teach and do what I do even more, is they give up too soon. They think, well, I had a divorce, I had cancer, I had a bad breakup. My business isn't going as well as it could because of the last couple of years. I'm tired out. My family's driving me nuts. Those are all excuses. Goes back to focus, guys. Mm-hmm. We are conditioned to negativity. This is another write down, key point here if you want to write this down. We are conditioned to have negativity all around us. Deliberate choice we make, such as a podcast as yours, guys. The person that really needs your podcast the most will not click on your podcast. Here's why. They don't like the title. Mm-hmm. They don't want to change.
Right.
And it's unfortunate. There are the vital few that you can serve, and there are the vital few that you never will convert.
Yep.
I think as I approach 50 this year, I know that's okay. We're allowed free will. I like to throw things out there of value that people that are receptive will say, that's a nugget or two I can take. Because as I said in the beginning, you really can't change people. They have to really want to have a need and a drive to change themselves. At that moment is when the teacher appears to the student. It's just universal wisdom, guys. Mm-hmm. So a lot of what we'll share today is nothing brand new. There's really not a whole lot brand new. It's timeless wisdom. It's common sense. A lot of people that read my book say, man, there's kind of like common sense. I know I should do that. Yeah. It's also great when I write a book like Positive Disruption here, is it reminds me to keep my game strong, because when you write it and you teach it, you get infinitely better at it. Mm-hmm. That's another benefit of being a teacher, is that when you research and you apply the principles and you work them each day and you teach it over and over, you get really good at it. So
Yeah.
how's that?
That's really good. I wanted to jump in here a little bit and talk about journaling. I feel that journaling is so undervalued nowadays because we get all caught up in our own headspaces and we all get caught up in our own self-perspectives of the loathing and the victim personality, or not personality, but perspective. That being able, in positive disruption, when you can read that quote in life and apply it to your own life, it allows you to take that step back and kind of realize things aren't all that bad.
Well, thank you for that. We've gotten a lot of feedback, you guys, as the book's been out a year now, and we just finished the follow-up volume 2 a couple days ago. So we're going to release later this year, volume 2. It'll be more quotes and questions to upshift your life. And the feedback's been fascinating. I think what I've learned is there's a lot of smarter people than me that have the master's degrees. There's trained psychologists, professors that have reached out and said, look, this book is really helpful because we can give it to our clients. Guys, I don't have a training in psychology. I understand sales and human nature, but I don't have a PhD in psychology or a trained therapist.
Right.
So I guess why, to build off your point, Gabe, is that a lot of smarter people than me that work with, direct one-on-one counseling are saying, hey, there's a couple of clues here. Number one, journaling is what we recommend all of our clients. Okay, I kind of knew that. I work with therapists. Also, when you get out of your head and out of your phone and you disconnect from the digital world and you just focus on yourself, many great ideas come to you.
Yeah.
You also get a chance to slow down time. One of my mentors said that writing is thinking on paper. It's tactile. It's old school. I'm holding a pen here. So if you're listening, you guys can see this. I'm holding a pen. I have notebooks all around my office, in my travel bags. I write ideas constantly. It's a great way for me to capture ideas, emotions, things that strike me in real time versus waiting. Because we have so many thoughts in a given day.
Yeah.
Check it out. We have like 50 to 60,000 self-talk conversations per day on average in each of our own brains. So it's crowded up there. Then you have a 9-second attention span. Then you cram in 5,000 to 7,000 ads every day that are following you on your phone, cookies, AI. It's real, you guys. It's busy. So when you shut everything down and you turn inward, as I said a few minutes ago, many times these ideas flow because you're listening to your other self. People call it the Holy Spirit, the other self, the higher power. It goes by different names. I'm a former gambler, okay? So in 12-step, we call it the higher power. So I say, you know what, I love to journal. I love quotes. I've learned that serenity in working on myself and getting a little selfish in, I believe, a good way of listening to my intuition, you combine them all and you have this book called Positive Disruption. So it's a combination of things throughout my own life journey, good and challenging. Guys, I failed a ton. I mean, I could give a TEDx on how to fail successfully. 7 steps to fail, And it's not because I'm proud of that. I own it. I don't want to keep repeating it. Okay. Up till a couple years ago, I didn't talk about the fact I was a former gambler. We're taught in 12-step not to bring that out to the public a lot because it's a confidential, anonymous thing. However, it is now woven into my soul and my story that I'm not embarrassed by it.
Yeah.
However, I don't want to talk about it for a half hour. And if someone wants to say, hey, let's talk about that, I'm going to keep it really quick and to the point.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to be defined as a former gambler. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You each have a unique life story. This isn't something I want to share immediately with your audience. Everyone has a unique story that can influence somebody. It doesn't have to be because I'm a teacher and a speaker and I write books and I go on interviews and television and podcasts that I know it all. Human to human, one-to-one is the powerful thing. And I think what we've seen, again, strong opinion here, is that social distancing, to me, I think will go back and be the biggest failure in human history. Here's why. I know some of your listeners are going to be mad. Prepare for the hate email.
Yes.
Humans, as I have traveled and spoken, done live events the last 2 years, we never stopped doing live events during the pandemic, guys. We did them in the Midwest. We did them safely, etc. What we found is people crave and love and miss social connection. Nothing wrong with Zoom. Nothing wrong with using the technology. We're recording with Zoom right now, okay? I'd be a hypocrite. But what we are seriously lacking is the connection to each other, that face-to-face in a room, that hugging, that embracing. Again, I'm over trying to play all the issues about the distance and the health. What we're seeing right now as we tape it is they don't know what the hell they're doing, guys.
Right.
They keep changing the rules as we go. I've had friends die of COVID, so I know it's real. But it's also realer, and I would say if there's such a word, more genuine, is this experiment has failed. Distance is not working. They just found out in Antarctica that research teams are catching COVID in Antarctica and spreading it. How is that happening? So I don't want to go to Alex Jones or Joe Rogan
Yeah,
on this
right.
podcast with you guys, but I think as we are now in a new fresh year, a new reset, it is time for the human race to get back to living within this new sort of, as we would say, edgeline world where you can still live. And it's exciting. This is my first interview for the new year with you guys, is that people are excited again.
Mm-hmm.
Some people are afraid. Some people are still too cautious. And I'm trying to say, hey, the ones that are excited, they get this message. They're listening to your guys' podcast all the time. They're your true believers.
Yeah.
Those that are maybe interested in looking at changing for this new year, they may stumble upon your podcast, or my fans might hear it and go, you know what, I needed that kick in the butt, that mental 2x4 to the mind to say it's time to start living. You guys are how old? What are your ages?
I'm 21.
19.
You guys are babies.
Yeah. We know.
That's a compliment. I know my 19-year-old son gets all mad when I say that. I'm like, man, if I could go back to my 19-year-old self, what would I say? And I say this to you guys right now. I discovered Tony Robbins, as I point at my bookshelf, lots of books here, when I was 19. I walked into a bookstore in Kalamazoo, Michigan, and picked up Unleash the Power Within. And I was hooked.
Yeah.
I was going to Western Michigan, getting a traditional university education, which I'm grateful for. And I found this whole other world. This was long before the internet, guys. YouTube. My senior year in 1994, the internet started to break. But it was another 10 or 15 years before social media. YouTube came on the scene. So we used to go to the bookstore. We had to go research this, or we had to go to live events. There was no internet.
Right.
I know it sounds like the dark ages for you guys, but it was a different time. So I'm the last of the pre-digital that also transitioned into digital when it first broke. So it's kind of a weird situation to be in. But my point is, Tony Robbins changed and opened the door. Then I went and did the research and lineage of who his teacher was, Jim Rohn, who I studied with for a full day. It was wonderful and loved Jim Rohn's material. Then there's Les Brown. There's all these other great teachers down the last couple hundred years that we had to uncover that taught us that personal development and goal setting. I don't know why it's not taught in high school and college, you guys.
Right.
It's not formally taught still. You see some universities shifting there, but there's no like life mastery 101. There's no Think and Grow Rich school. There's no Tony Robbins or Tony Rubleski or Mind Capture school of how to get attention. So you guys have a huge advantage at your ages to be, I would say, awakened, that you're going to look at life very different, more so from an entrepreneurial lens of self-reliance than just waiting and waiting and waiting. And you guys being so young gives me hope. I look at my kids that are 24, 22, and 19 and say, how cool that they're not going to repeat some of the stuff we did.
Right.
They're going to bring new ideas and new solutions to the problems we're currently going through. And, we've got to clean it up. People ask, why do you really do what you do? Aren't you afraid to speak and teach during COVID? I have some concerns initially, but I'll tell you why I'm not quitting and why I'm doubling down, as the old gambler would say. I'm not giving up on my kids, you guys.
Yeah.
I'm not copping out and saying how bad the world is, how screwed up the government is, that no one knows what's going on. I would be selling out to my children that I gave up. Our big reason why we did live events during the entire pandemic was no one stopped us. I wasn't going to have my entire business shut down, you guys. My entire livelihood could have stopped. I also look back now 2 years later in the rearview mirror, and I go, man, we didn't sit back during the pandemic and hype. We were out in the front line helping people and teaching. They had the choice to go to our events or not. And we did it safely. No one got COVID at our events. That's a miracle.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
But they paid to be there. They had free will to be there. We gave them an option to engage live. And no one can take that from us. That's not arrogance. That's not being mean towards politicians. They took away enough liberties that I said, I'm not. We have freedom of speech, freedom of expression, and freedom to assemble. Those are in the forefathers, the Constitution. Our forefathers fought for that in the Declaration of Independence. So I look at that and say that was my way of leading to inspire people, was that we were not going to sit and hide out and be afraid. during this thing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been crazy. It wasn't easy, you guys. We had people that got COVID before live events. We were worried that we had to shut our event down. We didn't. We had to move our event 4 times though in 2020. And again, it was to say, hey, look, we're allowed those freedoms still. So to me, as we look at 2022, the road ahead is get after it. There's no timeouts. Get busy, you guys and gals listening. No one's going to give you this green light and this red carpet to do what you want to do. You have to take proactive action. It's going to be scary. There were many sleepless nights, you guys, the first few months of 2020 when all my income stopped. My clients were canceling. I was the crazy guy that was doing live events still. People are like, are you crazy? But I will tell you, we didn't get one single piece of hate mail. There was no negative comments online. It shocked me.
Right.
But we did it in a way that was very inviting and not arrogant. I will tell you what, though, a lot of my fellow speakers and meeting planners were deadly quiet. It was like crickets. I was shocked how many people didn't say a word. And I think that maybe they were kind of like, what are you doing? Maybe they had their own things they were processing. But the whole point of that, if I could give a lesson to anyone listening, is you don't wait. The conditions will never be exactly right. And sometimes you got to take that leap of faith. I talk about this live. I show a clip from Indiana Jones, the leap of faith in one of the scenes. And people get it. Like, oh, yeah. Before the pandemic, we had to take risks. We had to live with uncertainty. And now what scares me a little bit, I don't like to say that word, it challenges me, is we're risk averse. Everyone's kind of waiting around still. You guys, me, people around us that we positively disrupt are going to be the ones that person by person, town by town, industry by industry are going to turn things around. Because obviously we have seen very little leadership the last 2 years. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Very correct.
Where are the leaders? Where'd they go? And the ones that are leading, that are taking these leaps of faith, that are promoting positivity, or, I'm a hope dealer, we're going to be the ones that one by one turn things around, because no one's coming to save you. You have to save yourself first, then you can help other people out. Okay.
Yeah.
So I know I've been on a rant, but you guys are giving me a lot of latitude by saying, Tony, just talk.
Yeah.
So do you think, in part, the whole pandemic with your live events, do you think the pandemic kind of helped because it kind of shocked people and made them realize, they've been caving, putting themselves in a little cave, and became curious from all the fear mongering that's been going on?
I don't know. That's a great question, Caleb, because we're still coming out of it, per se. And there's no definitive start and deadline when this thing could end. I think, if anything, it got people to look at their own lives, whether it's positive or negative. I do worry, I'll go a positive then a negative here. The positive thing is people start to question the whole work relationship. Do they really like what they're doing? Is this what their calling is? Are they leading a life of fulfillment with their work or their vocation? On the other side, the challenge is we are not built for social disconnection. I said that a few minutes ago in the interview, is that the loneliness, the amount of addiction and suicide, the unintended consequences are going to be here for years, you guys. I mean, there were days that, even as positive as I am, I was like, what is going on here?
Yeah.
I had some dark nights of the soul in March and April of 2020 where I'm like, can you really sustain your business? What are you going to do? You've got savings, but how long is that going to last? And when are live events going to come on? And how will that look? As we record this right now, we've been doing live. The numbers are not nearly as high as pre-COVID as far as attendees. We're just not seeing people being completely comfortable, and maybe a little bit of hesitation and confusion to go back to going full out live, to show up at a Chamber of Commerce event, one of our events, a Tony Robbins seminar for that matter. So again, I'm optimistic and I'm very biased. I believe in live events. They change lives. However, we will see, the jury is still out, and if they're going to return as strong in the next couple of years. I do believe they're always going to be there. I will say one thing that I've heard from other meeting planners is there's going to be fewer events for a while. So you're going to have to be very good at showing value proposition, safety, and that it's worth someone's time to physically go to an event. We got a little spoiled, guys. We're used to everything on Zoom.
Yeah.
We're used to everything being free or just zooming into our laptop. I believe that's going to continue. That won't stop. You're going to see also more hybrid events continuing into this year and next year. where people can either have the option to show up live or watch it streamed into them live. So good question.
So I kind of want to call back earlier to your, kind of being a person of action going into 2022. And so I wanted to make a point here. When Caleb and I were discussing starting a podcast, we had no clue what that meant other than the word podcast.
We get to talk.
And so we were sitting there and we're thinking, what would the podcast be about? What would the name be? What would we be doing? And we knew we kind of like to inspire. We like to provoke thought and push people to become better, reach their higher selves. And so we decided, well, let's order mics and find out what we're capable of. And so we spent, $450 on microphones, and then we were like, now what? And so ever since then, we've kind of just been going step by step. But I wanted to transition this into, what guarantee did you have in your life when you decided that you wanted to either be a public speaker or an author?
I think there's no guarantees, you guys.
Right.
If someone says, hey, if you do this exactly the way I do it, you're going to be a millionaire, run.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But there's no clear-cut path because every human has different emotions, different goals and needs and wants. I go back to the first part of the interview what I said, backtracking here about looking for successful clues. What I love about what you guys did is you didn't worry about all the how-to steps. Mm-hmm. If you get bogged down on how we're going to do this, you will never start what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it's sort of the old entrepreneurial model, or I would say quote is ready, fire, aim. You get ready, then you start going, then you aim, you hone in.
Yeah.
My first book in the series, I'm not unproud of it, but it's nowhere near how I write now. I'm getting much better. I should have in 20 years gotten better at writing after several books, the craft of writing. I don't cringe when I read the first book and go, wow, look at how far you've evolved and grown as a writer.
Yeah.
That first book was the foundation 18, 19 years ago, that manuscript to where we're at now. So there's no clear-cut guarantee you're going to succeed. The challenge is we have too many people that are waiting for the conditions to be exactly right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to wait till this thing is over. What are you going to wait for? Mm-hmm. We made strategic moves at the start, really about June and July of 2020, to say, how are we going to not just pivot, but completely redirect the company? We're going to write a book in the summer, get that book done and rush it to market and self-publish it. That was a strategic decision. Have faith that as we go into 2021, which is now last year, that live events will come back, which they did. So we were ahead of the curve. Also, keep adding so much value on social media and with our clients and our trainings that people are like, man, we need to get you in here right away. So we were way ahead of everybody else. Not because there's a shortage. There's plenty of training opportunities available, abundance mentality. But we wanted to be positioned like, wow, you guys were active the entire time. We're hearing about you. It was a chance to get ahead of the marketing noise. Because once things turned back on again, we thought, okay, we want to be positioned to be on the front of that wave, like a surfer, not paddling towards it going, oh, we should have done this the last year and a half. We want to be on the top of that wave riding it because we made those strategic moves. Yeah, it was scary, you guys. Mm-hmm. Try again selling motivation during a pandemic.
Yeah.
Or positive disruptions, I would say. It's not easy.
Right.
My family, half of them think I'm crazy. I'm like, they love me, but they know that I'm a little bit misunderstood.
Yeah. Right. So we have 3 questions we always ask our guests.
Okay.
And it's cool because from different backgrounds and different paths that people take, but kind of ending in the same spot, they all kind of have similar answers. So I'll start with the first one. Do you consider yourself successful?
Yes.
I like that answer. It was very confident. Usually,
I'm alive. My kids are healthy. I'm looking at my entire gratitude list in front of me. There's about 50 things that I know I'm successful every day. I go, thank you, God. And here's the deal, guys. We're still here.
Yeah.
I had 2 friends die in the last 60 days from COVID or complications of it. They were my age. And it's like, oh my gosh, you cannot complain, Tony. And if you're going to have an off day, keep that off day to 1 because you're still alive. Yeah. So yeah, successful. We're here.
That's probably one of my favorite answers we've had so far.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
All right, and then the next one, if you could give yourself if you could give advice to a younger self, of what would you tell yourself?
Habits are huge. Your habits will either make or break you. I just had this conversation with my son. He was visiting from Arizona. He flew out last night. He's 19. He moved from Michigan, Arizona. He's a little homesick still. I keep trying my best not to preach because he's a young adult, that your habits, son, will either make you very happy or miserable with your life. And I know I've had a lot of good habits, and I've had some bad ones, you guys. I had a habit I had to break 4.5 years ago. I talked about it earlier. That habit had to stop. So habits can either go to the dark side of the force, Star Wars fans know, or go to the light.
Yeah.
So habits will dictate your life.
Yeah.
And I just gotta say, that's awesome that you faced that and you've overcome it, and you didn't let that define you. Because it seems like a lot of people will make a mistake and then they'll just let that be their story. And so that's awesome that you've come to terms with it. You're way past it, and now you're accomplishing so many things. It's cool.
Yeah. And then for 2022, any awesome plans? Anything fun, exciting, things you want to accomplish? Anything like that?
Well, a preview, God willing, one day at a time, as I've learned, is we've got some great speaking events coming up this month alone. In Arizona, we're touring, Las Vegas, St. Croix in February, at Virgin Islands that they call. I'm like, all right, someone's got to go to the Virgin Islands in February. I'm your guy.
Yeah.
So there's some really cool, unique, warm places to be doing training and teaching. I'm very grateful for that. We're putting out 2 books. And this is a little bit of a kind of a full disclosure. Positive Disruption Volume 2, I mentioned, is done. We'll get that released later in this year. And then I'm working on book number 8 simultaneously while that's being edited, Trailblazers Volume 2. So I already started interviews with different inspirational leaders to follow up the first Trailblazer book for 2023. So there's some aggressive goals, health, spirituality, maintaining the habits every day. I've already done some multiple habits before this interview this morning, is keeping those habits going a day at a time, guys, to get all this done. And going from a very deep sense and space of gratitude for everything. I mean, this interview, I'm super grateful for. It's my first one of the year. And Gabe, you reached out a few weeks ago, and I thought, man, I got to get back to these guys. So, it sounds like a lot, but here's the thing. I'll lend on a classic book called Man's Search for Meaning, Viktor Frankl. He wrote it. He was a survivor of the Holocaust. He survived multiple death camps during the 1940s during World War II. In his book, Man's Search for Meaning, is we have to have meaning. We have to have some goals. We have to have some reasons to live. And I think when you have big goals, or travel or entertainment or things to look forward to, it gives you that sort of gasoline in the engine of your goals to keep pushing. I wrote this morning for an hour. It was drudgery. It was kind of boring. It ain't always sexy, guys, but it has to get done.
Yep.
There are deadlines and things that we have to grind through that make those goals, when you hit them, that much more worthwhile. And I think that having things to look forward to, like I mentioned in my own personal life, do that with your own life. If you don't have anything right now, say, all right, when am I going to get out of Traverse City and take a vacation? When am I going to get the 50th podcast done? What articles do I want to write by a certain day? What health habits do I want to have by the spring, April 1st? If you have things that you're chasing toward and you do your best to enjoy more of the days than not, you keep going. You have momentum. It's like a domino that tips, and it starts 1, 5 to 10. It gets a chain reaction going, the momentum effect. So you can tell them energy.
Oh, yeah.
I can already see myself in Arizona in front of a couple hundred people, in Las Vegas, on an island, teaching a group of realtors positive disruption when it's 80 degrees in February and I'm not in Michigan. That gets me jacked because these visions that I had years ago, this hard work is paying off, and I'm future pacing out to people I haven't met yet that I'll soon meet.
Yeah.
So it's a way of playing a mind game, and you script your life, guys.
Yeah.
If you're the director of your own life, write the script and plan on script changes.
Right.
Good and okay. You can't have one without the other, but every bad thing you have, I'll leave with this high point. You're learning a lesson. It may suck going through adversity, but you will learn a lot of lessons in the valley, more so than when you hit the top. I like to climb mountains. You get to the top of the mountain, it's like, that's awesome. But all that work to get up it, the journey, the view going up the mountain is what most people miss. Yeah. Enjoy that journey. So that's all I got. And thank you for having a very simple, low bandwidth as far as, this is a huge compliment, non-pressure podcast. Yeah. Sometimes I have like 5 minutes, or they have like 10 prepared questions. Yeah. And this has been much more of like a conversation over a cup of coffee.
Yeah, that's what we enjoy to have on here, just because it's genuine, provokes actual thought, and it's fun. You know, nobody's in a rush here. We just like to chit chat.
Cool.
And so do you have any questions for us?
No, I just want to send out Happy New Year to you guys. Thank whoever's listening, whatever time frame they catch this, because the power of technology and time shifting is, just an honor to be able to communicate. And I'm always grateful, as I've mentioned several times, that people call me or want me to give advice and ideas. It's definitely an honor. I don't take what I do for granted. And I know that if someone gives you the gift of attention, you want to make sure that you use it wisely. So good work. Keep kicking butt. I can't wait to meet you guys at some point. I know Hannah speaks highly. And like I said, shameless plug, we've got the boot camp in Traverse City on November 10th this year.
Yeah.
So it'd be fun to have, I'm sure Hannah, I'll reach out to her. It'd be fun to have a bunch of you guys come up to that because we're bringing it to your neighborhood.
Yeah, that'll be awesome.
It's an honor having you. We've heard
Thank
a lot
you.
about you as well, so we've looked into you. I know
If
I watched.
people need to find me, Google Tony Rubleski, go to Facebook. My name, you guys know me on Facebook or Mind Capture. If they're interested in the books, you can Google it under Positive Disruption. It should show up too.
Yeah, awesome.
Absolutely.
Well, we loved having you on, Tony. Thank you so much. And maybe we can do this again in the future sometime.
Happy New Year. Sounds
Happy
good.
New Year.
Happy New
See
Year.
you, Tony. All right, guys. We are still on Zoom. Camera quality's kind of bad. Actually looks terrible. Nah, actually...
It'll look good.
Wait, that actually looks really good for the webcam.
I think it's just that the screen,
Yeah, okay. Well, we will say thank you for tuning in.
Thank you so much.
Make sure to like and subscribe.
Hopefully you guys learned at least half of what we just learned. Lots of valued experience there.
Yeah, really awesome having Tony on.
And one of my favorite, this will be a highlight reel for the success question.
Yeah,
That was amazing.
that was a really good answer.
I don't think I've ever heard a yes so far.
I know. That was our first yes. So, he's a hope dealer. He's got to deal himself hope. But thank you guys so much for watching. If you're new and you enjoy the content, you like what we have here, make sure to drop a subscribe, like the video. Comment. Let us know you're here. Tell us what your goals are for 2022. And we will see you guys in the next one.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.